Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Sailorette.Plans. I'm Jessica. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. I'm doing a voiceover because my boat is very extra rocky and noisy, but I hope that interests you anyways. I'm going to be doing a memory keeping spread in my Erin Condren planner, so if that interests you, keep watching. So I did buy these images or scrapbook pieces of paper from Etsy, the Army and US flag. I also printed the rest of these images for free off of Google. I printed them on sticker paper, and some of these images are images from the Guadalcanal. And in today's plan with me, it is a little bit different since it is Veterans Day. I did want to take a moment to reflect and not just like plan the week, but to also honor those who served. And actually, in particular, this week is the week that my husband and I actually, we did a tour in Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. We're currently in the Solomon Islands, and I didn't decorate the week for Veterans Day, but I still think this all just perfectly kind of ties together. So I'll be sharing the story of the Battle of Guadalcanal since it's one of the turning points of the World War II in the Pacific. And so before I do that, I did just want to do a quick flip through. I only have a plan with me for the Wrong Dark Hearts one, but the rest are not planned with me. But so that then the next spread, I did want to do a little bit something more contrasting, and I used According to Allie, which I am an affiliate for. I want to show you, I also used Treasured Memories for this spread right here using real images. The Seize the Day was actual picture that I took in the middle of the ocean on our way to Solomon Islands from Vanuatu. And on this particular day, actually, we did go live together. So we watched the sunrise together. So I'll have that linked up above or in the description box down below if you want to watch the sunrise with me out from the middle of the ocean. Thank you all that joined and everybody that clicks on the video and watches and supports. So back to the spread or the storytelling. And yes, more stickers. And you're probably thinking, why that summer fun out of nowhere, kind of random? You'll see. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this. So the Battle of the Guadalcanal is one of the turning points of World War II in the Pacific, which I actually lived under a rock and I had no idea, like genuinely. And it's a story of courage and sacrifice and resilience. And I think it's the most perfect reminder of what Veterans Day is really about. So we're going to go back to 1942. The world was deep in World War II. And after Pearl Harbor, the US entered the war and Japan had been expanding rapidly across the entire Pacific. Guadalcanal, which is actually not a canal despite the way that the name sounds like, it is actually the name of an island here in the Solomon Islands, and it is suddenly incredibly important. This little tiny island out here in the South Pacific. Whoever controlled it would control vital shipping routes and communication lines. So in August of 1942, the US launched its very first major offensive against Japan there. And just a side note, if it sounds like I'm reading a little bit, it's because I am. I have some notes and I don't have all of this information memorized, just bits and pieces of it. So I also want to put correct information out into the internet. So as we were. So the Marines landed in Guadalcanal on August 7th, 1942, and they were experiencing some light resistance. At first, things seemed easy. They captured an airfield Japan had been building, and it later became known as Henderson Field. And maybe I will also insert some pictures, but Henderson Field today is an actual airport that is used in Guadalcanal. But anyways, back in 1942, the US troops realized that the Japanese weren't given up so easily, and the fighting broke out all over the island, and not just against the enemy, but also against the jungle itself. There was heat, like extreme heat in the jungle, disease, and hunger, which actually I learned from the local tour guide whose grandfather, actually, great-grandfather or grandfather, before he passed, had told him that he was one of the ones that aided the Americans. So the local people of the Solomon Islands, this is the most interesting part, I think, for me, is learning local perspectives, is that he fought in the war and he aided American troops. And a lot of the American men, they were exposed to a lot of hardship and a lot of new environmental factors that they weren't used to. And the locals were healers and spies, and they aided the American troops. A lot of these troops were so young, and many barely out of high school, and they were facing just unimaginable hardship. And from what I understand, the decision for local people to help out the Americans is because when the Japanese first came, they treated the local people, the Solomon people, very poorly. As you can imagine, what happens during war, and they decided that they were going to help out the Americans instead, just like our tour guide's grandfather decided to do so valiantly. So back to the story, there was a lot of struggle and a lot of sacrifice. The supplies ran really low, reinforcements were also really low, and nights were terrifying. So the Marines called them Tokyo Express nights because the Japanese ships kept attacking under the cover of darkness. The Battle of Savo Island, or the Battle for Henderson Field, and countless smaller clashes turned Guadalcanal into one of the bloodiest campaigns of the Pacific. So many lives were lost. I think from what I saw in the memorial, I think it was over 181,000 Japanese soldiers lost their lives, but I think that the memorial meant maybe as a whole during World War II, because when I go to Google it, it says that 38,000 Japanese lives were taken, specifically in Guadalcanal, and 7,100 American lives were lost during the Guadalcanal campaign. So that picture is the only colored picture that I chose to have on the upper right hand corner in my planner, and that is the US memorial, which is actually very nicely kept, and the star in the center is another memorial for the only US soldier that fell on that hill right there. And I didn't feel like I wanted to step on it for the picture. I just thought that might have been disrespectful. So I went and visited both memorials, the US one like I have here, and also the Japanese one. And I will say the Japanese one was really sad. It was not as well kept, and I wonder if the US funds the Solomon Islands to maintain the US memorial, because it was really beautifully kept. So I'll have all that to say is that I'm just sharing videos and images of that. So the Japanese liked to attack during the cover of night. At the US Memorial, we were actually able to see an image of like the battle plans and just how the Japanese ships were able to maneuver through the islands of the Solomon Islands. Even though there were other islands that some battle took place, there are just as many other islands that battle did not take place in. You can imagine the courage these troops showed holding that airfield and pushing through exhaustion, and it was truly extraordinary. They weren't fighting for glory, they were fighting for survival and for each other. By February of 1943, after 6 long months, the US finally secured Guadalcanal. It was the first major land victory against Japan, a turning point for the Allies. It proved that Japan's expansion could be stopped because they were quite literally unstoppable, and the tide of the war could be turned. I think that if Japan had never bombed Pearl Harbor, I feel that the US would have never been involved or intervened, and Japan probably would have a lot more control of the South Pacific today if they had not chosen to bomb Pearl Harbor. But I think they did that because they were running low on supplies and they needed oil and more war supplies. So they felt that it was inevitable that the US was going to be involved. So they decided to use Pearl Harbor as a point of weakness and attack our warships there, our Marines there. From there, the Allies began their island hopping strategy, moving closer and closer to Japan step by step. So honoring our veterans, when we think about veterans today, it's easy to picture parades and flags, but it's also about remembering these human stories. I mean, I am American and I'm proud to be an American, but I am also really saddened to see the aftermath of war. It's just, war is so sad, and I understand that it's still happening in different parts of the world, but war just makes me so incredibly sad, and being there just brought tremendous sadness and deep appreciation and understanding, and I really commend and honor all lives that were lost for the soldiers that fought for their countries valiantly and courageously. The young men on Guadalcanal faced fear, chaos, and loss, and they carried that experience with them for the rest of their lives. And many of them never even talked about it, but their courage shaped the course of history. Veterans Day reminds us to thank those who've served in every era and to honor the sacrifices that often go unseen. If you are decorating in your planner alongside with me, maybe let's take a moment to write down one way to show gratitude or reflect on something that you are grateful for in your life. I am most definitely grateful for all fallen soldiers, and even my husband's grandparents served in the war as well. So if you had anybody in your family serve, I thank them for their service as well. Guadalcanal teaches us that even in the darkest of times, courage can make all the difference. To all veterans, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. If you found this video meaningful, please be sure to share it, like it. Take a moment today to reflect on what freedom and service means to you, because freedom is never free. And I know that I've shared this in other videos before, or maybe one other video before, but there's actually bombs that still go off accidentally from the war. There was somebody that unfortunately passed away earlier this year. He was a farmer. He started a fire in his yard and he accidentally set off a bomb. He had no idea there was a bomb under him, and there's a lot of war debris littered throughout the Solomon Islands. There's tons of wrecks, and I do wish that our government, the US, would partner with Japan to help remove some of the debris as much as possible. I know that things have been overgrown. A lot of civilization has built, on top of the debris, but I think doing something about it shows, I don't know, I think it just shows a little bit more compassion or humanity, or like do something about it instead of people just dying, innocent people dying from the effects of war, which is so unfair. But I hope that you enjoyed listening to a little bit of the story of Guadalcanal, and uh, maybe you learned something new like I did from the war in the Pacific. I genuinely was not aware of it, and I think it was because when I was younger, I was not very interested in history in and of itself. I am a lot more interested in it as an adult, I will say, just because I now understand the deeper meaning of it. As a child, I just didn't understand how it had anything to do with me in today, and how past mistakes were going to help me today. But I think for me, it's more nowadays, it's more about just having a richer understanding and insight into the culture and country of itself. And this, every country is built on sacrifices. And I now take that a lot more to heart. So I hope that you enjoyed listening to that, even though some of it was read, but I hope that you don't mind that and that you enjoyed it. So there is about 5 minutes left, and I can talk now a little bit about the spread if you want and if you're interested. Right now I'm currently putting some corner pieces on the corners. I'm really obsessed with these pieces from the Treasured Memories, and man, I have been loving Treasured Memories so much. I did end up buying a second copy of Treasured Memories. I know. I love the little corner pieces. Maybe they don't exactly go because they're golden. I do wish they were gray. I should go back and look at Live in the Moment and see if there's any like gray corner pieces. I should have thought about that before, actually. So I might go back and swap those out. And I already have taken Instagram pictures, so nobody's gonna actually see the true spread at the end, but I'm just like thinking about that right now. And I go in and I use the Summer Fun for a lot of the boxes here, and I decide to use the red, a pop of red, because one of the memorials that we went to go see was called Bloody Ridge, and it was actually where the Japanese and Americans fought against each other. And I also thought that the pop of red would also be really symbolic, because the American flag also has red in it. So I decided to go with red. I will say that my original thought was to keep it very monochromatic and just have very small pops of color, meaning the only color would have been essentially my photo on the right hand corner and the army paper that I decided to rip, and everything else was going to be different shades of gray. Literally no pun intended there. That's where the Japanese were. Where I'm standing is where the Americans were. And that's a dried up river. And back here somewhere there's a, let's see if I could find it. This right here, right there, is where they burned American bodies. Americans burned American bodies so they wouldn't leave anyone behind. And then right behind me, right over there, I know it's hard to tell, was the New Zealand hospital where they mended. And they've got a good view here of the ocean as well. And that's what I was originally intending, but then I just kept looking at things, and I don't know, I did add a lot more pop of color than I first anticipated, and the end result is still something that I'm happy with. This one was a little bit of a struggle, I will say, because I didn't know how to bring it all together, and this week that I went to go on the tour was very meaningful to me. I am also like turning the boxes to match the vibes of the corner pieces, because I have the corner pieces all turned in different whimsical ways. I decided to add a little bit more of the chaos, I guess, because the war is chaotic. So I decided to do something different and turn the boxes. Now, this box that I am putting down on Sunday, I really felt like I needed a red box there, and looking at it now, I was very conflicted to either go with gray or red, but I think I really should have gone with red because there's a lot of gray happening in this spread in and of itself. And I will say that my camera battery did die and I got really impatient. So I worked on the spread off camera, and you will see the finished product as much as it's gonna be, right, on camera shortly, and I will discuss what I did. Yes, so all of these images were from Guadalcanal, with the exception, I think I already said, of the Battle of Iwo Jima in Japan, where the troops raised the American flag there. So here is the finished spread. I ended up pulling out the Live with Posh retro holidays and added the American flag as well as the little airplane there, because I did seeing an airplane at a different island. It was a B-24 bomber, and yeah, and there was a story behind that, but we're running a little bit out of time.
Well, yeah, these pieces, I'm very surprised how good a condition that stuff is in.
Yeah.
It's aluminum, right? It doesn't rust.
Oh yeah, I guess the land vehicles were made out of iron in Guadalcanal, because they were absolutely.
That was the B-24 American bomber that crash landed at Mobile Island in the Solomon Islands, and it held 9 passengers. 8 out of 9 passengers survived. The captain and ninth person of the plane did not survive. He was later found drowned. The chief of the island, Chief Luton, who was only 2 weeks old during this time, was named after one of the American soldiers. And he was such a sweet person, 84 years old with the bluest eyes. He was sick at the time that we went to go visit him, and we did give him some medicine that we had, Dayquil and NyQuil. So I hope that you enjoyed listening to this. Oh, I did add some Amber Plans Her Day quotes as well, because I thought they were just literally so perfect. And yeah, this is the spread, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed today's plan with me. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like it, subscribe. Thank you, everybody that has been subscribing and watching my content lately. I'm so happy and grateful that you are here. And yeah, I hope to catch you on the next one. Bon voyage.